You think walking away means giving up. But sometimes, walking away is how you finally get yourself back. Because the truth is, you didn't lose your peace because of one big betrayal. You lost it in 1,000 small yeses you never meant to give. Each time you said it's fine when it wasn't. Each time you stayed when your soul said go. Each time you held space for others and none for yourself. That's not kindness, that's self-abandonment. The Stoics didn't teach silence. They taught direction. They knew that real power comes from clarity and the courage to let go of what no longer aligns. So let me ask you, what if your strength isn't in holding on tighter, but in finally letting go with intention? Stay with me. Because in this video, you'll learn 10 Stoic shifts that turn your silence into strength and your distance into direction. This isn't a video about being cold or heartless or cutting everyone off. This is about learning that some spaces shrink you, that some relationships only survive when you abandon yourself, that some peace is just your silence disguised as maturity. But real peace, it doesn't come from pleasing everyone. It comes from knowing who you are and what you will no longer tolerate. The Stoics never taught detachment as escape. They taught it as strategy. So in this video, you'll learn 10 powerful Stoic shifts that help you walk away, not from love, but from the need to shrink for it. And if you stay till the end, I'll give you the one question that helped me stop proving my worth through proximity. Let's begin. Sam was the nice one, the one who always showed up, always said yes, always made space, even when it cost him sleep, energy, or self-respect. People loved him, but they also expected him to bend, to absorb, to never say no. And one day, Sam cracked. Not loudly, quietly. He looked in the mirror and realized, I've been everyone's safe place except my own. That's when everything changed. He didn't burn bridges, he built boundaries. He didn't rage, he released. He didn't leave to prove a point. He left to protect a self he'd spent years abandoning, and that's when they started noticing. Not because he got louder, but because his absence finally matched his truth. Just like Sam, you don't have to explode to exit. You just have to stop shrinking, to stay. Shift number 1, stop explaining your piece. You say no and feel the need to write a paragraph. You take space and rush to justify why. You change your boundaries and overcompensate with guilt, tone, softness, because deep down, you don't feel allowed to protect your peace without permission. But here's the truth. You don't need a perfectly crafted excuse to value your energy. You don't need to be falling apart to step back. Peace is a decision, not a debate, and the more you explain it, the more you open yourself to people who were never meant to understand it. Here's your shift. Stop trying to make peace polite. Start treating it as your birthright. Try this. Next time you decline, pull back, or redirect. Say it once. Say it clearly. Say it without apology. Then breathe and remind yourself. My peace isn't a request. It's a statement. Because if your silence needs a 5-minute explanation, it's not your peace they're questioning. It's your permission to have it. Shift number 2. Stop feeling guilty for choosing space. You take a step back and instantly feel the itch. Am I being selfish? Are they upset? Should I check in? Because somewhere along the way, you were taught that your need for space is a problem to apologize for. So instead of listening to your nervous system, you override it. You stay in the chat. You keep the call going. You hold presence for people, even when you're drained. And you wonder why you feel burned out, bitter and blurry. The Stoics never glorified burnout. They honored boundaries, not as defense, but as direction. Here's your shift. Stop treating your need for space like it needs justification. Start honoring it like it's essential, because it is. Try this. When the guilt rises after pulling back, breathe. Name it. Then say, "This is my reset, not my rejection." Because if your presence always cost your peace, it was never connection. It was emotional labor. Guilt isn't a sign you did something wrong. It's a sign you're doing something new. Shift number 3, stop treating distance as a failure. You drift apart and instantly think, what did I do wrong? You choose space and label it as loss. You say, this isn't for me anymore, and it feels like giving up. But here's the truth. Not everything that ends is a failure. Some connections expire because you've grown, because they've paused, because the dynamic no longer honors who you are now. Distance isn't always avoidance. Sometimes it's evolution. The Stoics didn't chase people or cling to the past. They stayed honest with the present, even when it meant walking alone. Here's your shift. Stop seeing every goodbye as a breakdown. Start seeing it as a breakthrough. Try this. When you notice something shifting, don't panic. Don't guilt yourself. Don't overcompensate. Pause and ask, is this distance a failure or a form of growth I'm still learning to respect? Because real strength isn't in keeping everything close. It's in knowing what needs to be held and what needs to be released. Shift number 4. Stop staying just because you used to. You don't laugh the same. You don't feel safe anymore. You don't even recognize who you are around them. But you stay because we've been through so much, because they were there for me once. Because what if I'm the one giving up too soon? But here's what you're ignoring. The fact that you stayed doesn't mean you should keep staying. Loyalty to the past should never cost you the present. The Stoics weren't loyal to comfort. They were loyal to truth, even when that truth required change. Here's your shift. Stop confusing history with alignment. Start honoring who you're becoming, not just who you've been. Try this. When you feel yourself staying out of habit, pause and ask, am I staying for who they are or for who they used to be? And then ask yourself again, am I staying for who I am or for who I was back then? Because love doesn't always mean holding on. Sometimes the most loving choice is to let the story end with dignity. Shift number 5. Stop equating discomfort with disloyalty. You set a boundary and feel like you're betraying someone. You take space and wonder if you're being selfish. You speak your truth and instantly want to soften it because somewhere deep down, you've confused being honest with being cruel. But here's what no one told you. Discomfort doesn't mean disloyalty. Distance doesn't mean disrespect. Truth doesn't mean attack. Sometimes the most respectful thing you can do is be clear, and the Stoics knew this. Truth without malice isn't a weapon. It's a compass. Here's your shift. Stop abandoning your clarity to protect someone else's comfort. Start letting discomfort be a part of how real love matures. Try this. Next time a boundary makes you feel mean, pause, breathe, and whisper, I'm not hurting them, I'm honoring me. Because loyalty doesn't mean losing your voice. It means learning how to stay true without losing peace. Real loyalty includes yourself. Shift. Verse 6. Stop believing your value is proven by staying. You stayed through the hard times, through the confusion, through the parts of you that whispered leave, because you thought, if I leave, what does that say about me? If I let go, will they think I never cared? So you stayed, not out of peace, but out of proof. Proof that you're loyal, that you're loving, that you're strong enough to endure what hurts. But here's the truth. Your value isn't measured by your tolerance for pain. It's measured by your alignment, your clarity, your willingness to walk when peace is no longer present. The Stoics didn't equate endurance with wisdom. They practiced discernment, the strength to know when staying meant shrinking. Here's your shift. Stop staying to prove your character. Start walking to protect your evolution. Try this. When you feel guilt rising as you consider letting go, breathe, pause, and say, I'm not leaving because I'm weak. I'm leaving because I'm waking up. Because strength isn't just how long you endure. It's knowing when endurance becomes self-betrayal. Shifter for 7. Stop thinking detachment means you never cared. You stop calling. You stop explaining. You step back because something inside you is finally done. And yet, the guilt creeps in. Maybe I'm being cold. Maybe I didn't care enough. Maybe they'll think I'm heartless. But here's the truth. Detachment doesn't erase what was real. It just means you're no longer willing to bleed for it. Caring and staying aren't the same thing. You can love and still walk. You can value the memories and still protect your peace. The Stoics practice this. Feel deeply, detach wisely, return to center, no matter what tried to pull them off course. Here's your shift. Stop tying your care to how long you hold on. Start trusting that letting go can be the most loving thing you ever do for yourself. Try this. When guilt knocks after you detach, don't answer with shame. Pause, breathe, and say, I cared, and I chose peace. Both can be true. Because walking away doesn't make the love fake. It makes the healing real. Shift number 8. Stop thinking they need to understand to justify your exit. You start to walk away, and you want to explain everything. All the little things, all the times you bent, all the pain they didn't notice, because part of you still hopes. If they just understood, maybe they'd validate your decision. Maybe they'd say, you're right. But here's the truth. Closure doesn't require agreement, and healing doesn't require permission. Sometimes the need to be understood is just another way of clinging, of trying to make your peace depend on their perspective. But the Stoics didn't seek approval to act in alignment. They knew right action speaks for itself, even if no one claps for it. Here's your shift. Stop waiting for their I get it. Start trusting your own knowing. Try this. When the urge rises to justify, pause, write it down for yourself, not for them. Then ask, do I need their validation or my own peace? Because truth spoken internally often heals more than truth argued externally. You don't need them to agree for your exit to be valid. You just need to be clear with yourself. Shift number 9. Stop believing walking away makes you heartless. You step back, and instantly the weight settles in. Did I just give up? Am I being cold? Will they think I never cared? Because somewhere deep inside, you've been taught that to love means to stay, to endure, to keep showing up, even when your spirit is running on empty. You've been conditioned to believe that distance is cruelty, that choosing yourself is betrayal, that stepping back is a sign that you've turned off your heart. But here's the truth no one told you. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is leave. Not out of anger, not from bitterness, not to hurt, not to shame, not to prove anything, but because you've finally found enough clarity to say, this is no longer love. If it costs me myself. You can care deeply and still choose space. You can grieve profoundly and still know that leaving is the most honest thing you've done in a long time. This is what the Stoics understood so well. They weren't emotionless. They weren't made of stone. They were disciplined enough to know when preserving their peace was more important than preserving a connection that was slowly chipping away at their soul. Stillness isn't the absence of care, it's the presence of wisdom. Distance doesn't mean you've stopped feeling, it means you've stopped bleeding, just to prove you're loyal. So here's your shift. Stop equating silence with stone. Stop thinking that love means self-sacrifice. Start seeing your exiters an act of self-respect as the highest form of care for you, because real love includes you in the equation, not just the other person, not just their needs, their wounds, their storms. Try this. The next time guilt rises, when the voice says, "You're being heartless," pause, place a hand over your heart, and answer with truth. I'm not being heartless, I'm being whole. Because here's what we forget. Love without boundaries becomes self-neglect. And staying in a space where your soul is slowly unraveling is not love. It's survival. So please remember, you didn't leave because you didn't care. You left because you finally did. Not for revenge, not for attention, but for alignment, for the quiet knowing that love shouldn't require you to abandon yourself to keep it alive. You stepped back to finally come home to your own heart. Shift. Jut 10. Stop thinking. Walking away means you're done feeling. You distance yourself. You reclaim your space. You draw the line. You finally say, enough. And somewhere in you, you expect release. A sudden silence, a peace that wraps around you like a warm blanket. But what comes is a whisper at 2 a.m., a memory that won't let go, a pang in your chest that feels like loss. Even though you were the one who chose to leave, you thought you'd feel strong, untouchable, free. But instead, you feel sad, tired, tender, and so you wonder, did I make a mistake? If I still feel this much, maybe I should have stayed. But here's what almost no one tells you. Walking away is a physical act. Healing is an emotional one. You can change your environment and still feel haunted by what you left behind. You can block the number, unfollow the page, burn the letters, and still wake up wondering what could have been. That doesn't mean you're weak. That doesn't mean you're confused, and it sure as hell doesn't mean you should go back. It means you're human. It means you cared. It means your nervous system is still unlearning the shape of what once felt familiar. And that's not failure. That's process. The Stoics understood this. They didn't confuse feeling deeply with being irrational. They knew emotion is information, not identity, not truth, just signals to witness, not obey. You can miss what harmed you. You can cry for something you chose to leave. You can feel everything and still stand your ground. Here's your shift. Stop expecting closure to feel clean. Stop thinking that if pain rises, your decision was wrong. Start holding space for the complexity, the love and the pain, the relief and the grief, the clarity and the ache. Start honoring the fullness of your emotion without letting it reattach you to what you've already outgrown. Try this. When the flood of feeling returns, when your chest tightens, when the what-ifs come knocking, don't reach for the phone. Don't beg for closure. Don't numb it. Instead, pause, breathe, let the waves rise, and let them pass, and say to yourself, not with panic, but with power, I can feel this, and still stay gone. Because leaving doesn't mean you never loved. It means you love yourself enough to no longer live in a cycle of pain, hoping it'll turn into peace. You didn't walk away to erase your story. You walked away to rewrite it. You walked away to end the chapter on your terms. Even if your voice shakes, even if your heart aches, even if you still cry, this isn't the end of you, it's the beginning of you. Free. You didn't walk away because you were angry. You walked away because you were done trying to explain your worth to people who never had the capacity to hold it, to honor it, to even see it. You got tired of over-explaining, of shrinking yourself, of offering your softness to people who only knew how to hold sharp edges. You didn't detach because you didn't care. You didn't stop feeling. You didn't suddenly go numb. No, you detached because you finally realized feeling everything was never meant to be your burden alone, that your heart is precious, but it's not a container for other people's unprocessed wounds. You didn't leave to prove anything. You didn't walk away to punish. You walked away to protect your peace, to finally sit in your own breath without being asked to shrink. And that's strength. Not because it's loud, not because it comes with a speech, not because it has applause, but because it's rooted, because it no longer chases, because it simply says, I know what I'm worth, even when you don't. It's strength because it stops needing to be understood, to be valid. So let me ask you this. Which of these shifts are you finally ready to embody? Not to hurt anyone, not to make a point, but to finally come home to yourself, to your boundaries, to your energy, to your stillness. Drop it in the comments, not as a performance, but as a declaration, a quiet way of telling the world. I still feel, I still love, but now I choose me. Let those words sit in your chest. Let them become your compass. Let them carry you back, not to them, but to you. Thank you for walking away with grace, with presence, with quiet power, not to vanish, not to ghost, not to retreat in fear, but to finally return to your center, to the part of you that was never broken, just buried, just waiting.